The man has neither money nor a woman as gentle and beautiful as Shui Xian. What kind of magic does this man possess to make Shui Xian's father so fascinated? The man's name is Zhou Tong, known as the Little Overlord. He has a sister who is addicted to gambling, named Zhou Ji. This day, his sister lost everything again and directly laid her head on the gambling table. He wanted to mortgage 50 taels of gold, but unexpectedly lost everything again in one go. Finished, he tried to run away without paying. The boss had his men stop him. Zhou Ji, unhurried, took out a signal device and quickly sent a signal to her brother. Seeing his sister's message, Zhou Tong quickly jumped out of the window. As a result, he accidentally stepped on a banana peel and almost split his backside in two. Just as he was cursing in anger, a traffic officer gave his Mercedes horse a ticket for illegal parking. To save time, Zhou Tong rode the horse and ran. On the way, he ran several red lights in a row. The boss was about to sell his sister to the Yihong courtyard when Zhou Tong stepped in and started fighting. While watching the commotion, his sister didn't forget to place bets with the onlookers on who would win the fight. In no time, her brother knocked everyone down, and his sister earned quite a bit of silver. The siblings caused trouble every day, making their mother, the old lady, very angry. I should never have collaborated with your father to give birth to you. To discipline the sister, the old lady planned to have her betrothed husband teach her a lesson. Upon hearing she had a husband she hadn't married yet, the sister immediately started daydreaming. From then on, she began to think about him day and night. One day, a poor beggar came downstairs. Unexpectedly, it was the scholar husband she had been dreaming of. The sister almost twisted her back in surprise. The old lady was very pleased to see her son-in-law and asked why he had ended up like this. It turned out that the scholar's family was once very wealthy, but due to his father's failed investments, they went bankrupt and he died. Now, he is penniless and extremely poor. Upon hearing this, the sister realized he was just a poor beggar and immediately refused the marriage. The old lady was very angry, saying if you don't marry him, don't regret it later. I've been widowed for many years, and if you don't marry him, I will marry the scholar. Happily, she fainted on the spot. Zhou Tong started calculating. If he marries my mother, wouldn't he become my father? In the future, we definitely won't have good days ahead. In the end, the brother still advised his sister to think carefully. For the sake of our good days, you should make a little sacrifice. But I promise, after he gets married, he'll be obedient. The next day, during the wedding, Zhou Dong started to make things difficult for the scholar. First, he had to walk over a fire pit, then crawl through pantsuit, and finally got drenched with a basin of cold water. In the evening, he finally reached the bridal chamber, first giving his sister a massage, then washing her feet. After his money pouch was completely emptied, his sister sent him off. Crying and chewing, the scholar couldn't swallow his pride, so he used the foot-washing water as ink to write a letter, then left with a small bag. On the road, he felt a bit hungry and walked into a small shop. The scholar originally wanted a cup of bamboo leaf green tea, but the waiter said they only had cocktails, specifically this chicken tail, which was a bit large. The scholar found it hard to drink. He wanted to get something to eat, and the waiter said they had hot dogs. You know, the dog was really hot. When the dish arrived, he hadn't even taken a bite when a customer next to him wanted to pay the bill. Unexpectedly, the minimum charge here was 18 taels. That person only had 3 taels and got a severe beating. Seeing the only 1 tael in his hand, he thought he was doomed. The scholar had no choice but to run away quickly. At this moment, a fierce woman entered the shop. Seeing someone trying to trick a little girl into drinking obedient water, the fierce woman couldn't stand it and shouted, but was insulted as a dog by the other party. Then, the two sides started fighting out of dissatisfaction. The fleeing scholar ran into a dead end. With no other option, he had to return the way he came. At this time, the fierce woman took out a hidden weapon, a boomerang banana, and knocked the thug senseless, which also allowed the scholar hiding behind the counter to eat his fill. While the fierce woman was dealing with one person, someone tried to sneak attack her with a jar, but accidentally stepped on a banana peel, slipped, and fell to the ground. Watching the scholar eating the banana, the scholar felt utterly humiliated and wanted to end it all. The fierce woman happened to chase after him and arrived there. When the scholar woke up from the bed, he told the fierce woman about his ordeal. The fierce woman took out 8 taels of gold, giving it to the scholar as travel expenses to go to the capital for the exam, only needing him to return and marry her if he passed. Every year, I meet 30 to 50 people like you. I call this casting a wide net, diversifying investments. No matter who among you becomes the top scholar, I will definitely be the top scholar's wife. The next day, the fierce woman sent the scholar off on the inheritance boat. After sending the scholar away, the fierce woman planned to meet the little tyrant Zhou Tong. On Zhou Tong's side, ever since the scholar left a note saying he was leaving, the old lady couldn't eat with chopsticks or swallow with a bowl. Zhou Dong plans to throw him a 70th birthday party to lift his spirits. He heard there's a magician at the market, so he plans to invite the magician over. The handsome magician and his amazing magic show attract many young girls. At this moment, a young lady disguised as a man, Bai Shuexian, arrives. Her big eyes and delicate face quickly draw the young girl's attention away. This makes the magician quite upset, and he insists on using magic to play a trick on Bai Shuexian. However, he accidentally pulls off her belly band. At this point, the magician realizes Bai Shuexian's identity, and she runs away embarrassed. The magician is deeply attracted to her and even forgets about the audience's money, following her to a temple where they have a conversation. They feel a strong connection. Bai Shuexian gives the magician her belly band as a token of love. After returning, she thinks of a way to get her father to visit. To leave her father with no choice, Bai Shuexian claims she is already pregnant with the magician's child. Meanwhile, Zhou Tong just found the magician at the market and hopes he will perform at his house to liven things up. The magician, aware of Zhou Tong's notorious reputation, plays a trick on him, turning into Batman and disappearing in a puff of white smoke. Zhou Tong has no choice but to wait for the magician to return. At this moment, Bai's father arrives and mistakes Zhou Tong for the magician, leading to the scene at the beginning. Bai's father is willing to offer a dowry to get Zhou Tong's agreement. After much effort, Zhou Tong finally agrees, but Bai Shuexian realizes this is not the magician at all. After Bai's father finds out, he orders his men to send the guests away. Zhou Dong, seeing Bai Shuexian's beauty, is reluctant to let her go. He says, "You begged me, so I agreed. Now you want to back out? No way." He instructs his men to guard the place and prepare for the wedding ceremony in the morning. The maid quickly finds the magician, who disguises himself as a woman and goes upstairs. Bai's father is shaving and preparing to stand in for his daughter at the ceremony. Seeing the magician's stunning female disguise, he thinks the maid found someone to replace his daughter and tries to take advantage of the situation. This old man can't tell the difference between men and women. Moyesha just arrived in town and is being offered travel companions. Surprisingly, there are many good options, including Zhou Fafa, Lu Wawa, and Zhou Xingxing. Moyesha directly chooses Zhou Xingxing. The maid, fearing Zhou Tong's search, hides Bai Shuexian in an inn and sends Moros upstairs to find her. Mr. T is getting ready. Hold on a moment, and enjoy it. Open a bottle of high-end red wine. First chill it with rose petals to freshen the breath. Use fragrant powder to remove body odor. Shave leg hair with a 40-meter-long knife. But just as one leg is shaved, the 40-meter-long knife is already worn out. At this moment, the magician enters the wrong room and ends up outside the door. Mr. T thinks the service he called for has arrived and hurriedly lies down on the bed. The magician sees Mr. T and is so scared he runs away. But Mr. T grabs him and throws him onto the bed, stepping on the unshaved thigh and collecting the money. Not doing the job and still trying to run. No way. Before the magician can explain, a loud scream from Bai Shuexian next door reveals that Zhou Xingxing also entered the wrong room. But Zhou Xingxing looks nothing like his photo, and Mr. T punches him out. They realize they were also harmed by Zhou Tong, who is forcing Bai Shuexian to marry. Mr. T laughs happily. At this moment, Zhou Tong successfully takes the bride away. During the wedding ceremony, after a cup of tea, the old lady instantly becomes over 30 years younger. In no time, not only does her chest perk up, but her hips also lift. On the wedding night, Zhou Tong finally sees it's not Bai Shuexian. After 300 rounds of battle, Zhou Tong is left battered and bruised. Unexpectedly, the next morning, Mr. T's birthmark disappears, and the 3 birth defects are gone, turning into a complete beauty. And her birth defects transfer to Zhou Tong's face, which makes Zhou Tong very satisfied. At this moment, more good news arrives. The scholar tops the exam and returns home in glory. Even his ride is a Rolls-Royce horse. His sister wants to reconcile with him, and she applies 3 tons of white powder on her face. On the way there, it's like spreading lime. The scholar says, if you want to reconcile, you must first do 3 things. First, the master of the crotch. Unexpectedly, the sister doesn't mind and slips right through. Second, wash your feet in public. The clear water instantly turns black like ink. Then, the scholar asks him to drink it. The old lady feels it's her fault for not teaching her child well and insists on drinking it for her sister. Their argument embarrasses the scholar, so he cancels this part. Third, spilled water can't be retrieved. He asks the sister to retrieve the water he spilled. Then, he throws out the foot-washing water. At this moment, the brother shows his skill, catching most of the water with a flick and a toss. As for the remaining small droplets, he either catches them with his hands or feet. If it's not using the head, it's using the legs. Anyway, all sorts of difficult moves to collect the water droplets. At this moment, the scholar noticed there was still 1 drop left. The sister made a dive for it, and the brother quickly pulled her back, accurately using his hand. They wobbled back to the basin. Everyone was happily clapping. Finally, all the droplets were collected. When the sister carried the basin up the steps, she accidentally fell, spilling the entire basin with not a drop left. The scholar laughed heartily, saying it was fate. At this moment, the magician stepped forward. After a series of complex maneuvers, all the water returned to the basin. Now, the scholar had no choice but to agree. Then, Bai Dad and the old lady exchanged glances. At the end of the movie, the scholar, the sister, Mo Yeza, the little tyrant, the magician, and Bai Shuexian, the old lady, and Bai Dad all lived a shamelessly happy life. The movie, All's Well, Ends Well, concludes here. A nonsensical Hong Kong comedy film released 193 years ago, featuring many famous stars. The humor lies in its creativity, like the boatman and the Mercedes horse. It's quite entertaining. If you have time, you can watch the original film. Alright, if you want to see more good movie commentaries, please follow me. Bye bye.